If you are looking for a fresh and tasty meal, then you have got to make these Greek chicken gyros. And I'm also going to show you how easy it is to make the flatbread from scratch using your sourdough starter. So, as with most sourdough recipes, we are going to prepare the dough the day before so that we can give it time to ferment. The full recipe will be linked below. So the morning before you want to make this, you're going to feed your starter with the flour of your choice. Today I am using organic, unbleached, all-purpose flour, and you're going to pour in enough filtered water so that the consistency of the starter is similar to thick pancake batter, and this is what mine looked like. Then set it aside and go about your day, and then around dinner time, check your starter and it should be ready to go. At this point, I milled some fresh flour. I used half freshly milled flour and then half all-purpose flour. This way I add lots of nutrients into my flatbread while also still getting a very light and fluffy flatbread. This dough does need to be kneaded for a few minutes, so I did add all of my dough ingredients straight into the Bosch stand mixer. Next, we need to add in a whole cup of the active sourdough starter, along with some salt and milk of your choice. You can use water in place of milk here if you prefer, or if you run out of milk. Then you're going to set the mixer to speed 1 and watch the dough come together. After about a minute, you're going to turn off the mixer and allow the dough to rest while it absorbs the liquids. This is something that I am only doing because I'm using freshly milled flour. If you are not using freshly milled flour, then you can skip over this step and just allow the mixer to keep going for like 6 minutes straight. But I just find that with freshly milled flour, it does take a little bit of time to absorb the liquids, and you get a much better result when you just give it a good 20-30 minutes to rest and absorb all the liquids. So during this time frame, I ate dinner, and it was about 20-30 minutes long. And then when I was done, and I'm not like timing it exactly, but it's just whenever it works, with me and my schedule, is when I go back to it. And once I'm all done with that, I put the mixer back on for a total of 6 minutes, and I cleaned up from dinner. Now, the actual recipe didn't specify 6 minutes, but I thought that 6 minutes sounded like a good time, and the dough worked out great, so I'm going to take it as a win. And if you guys would like to get started milling flour at home and to get this mixer, then I have linked them in the description box, and you can use my affiliate code Simply20 for $20 savings on each. After the 6 minutes, I greased a glass bowl and transferred the dough into it and covered it with some plastic wrap and allowed it to ferment overnight. The next morning, I lightly floured my cutting board and transferred the dough onto it. Now, if the dough sticks to the bowl, then you can use your dough scraper to easily remove it. And then you're going to lightly spread out the dough a little bit using your hands, and then use a dough scraper to cut it in half and then into individual sections. What I like to do is just gently press down using the dough scraper all along the dough, just to ensure that there will be enough like flatbreads and that they'll be, each dough section is going to be relatively equal in size. And then I will go ahead and cut them once I have done that. And my dough made 8 flatbreads. Then you are going to roll out each one. So I like to start by rolling it into a ball in my hand and then using the palm of my hand to press down. Then I use a rolling pin to roll these into thin circles. You want them fairly on the thin side just because they do puff up a little bit in the frying pan, which is exactly like the perfect amount of thickness that you would need for a flatbread. It's exactly what you would get when you are buying them in the store. But yeah, you do want to make them fairly on the thin side. Then you're going to rotate the rolling pin all throughout the process. This is going to help you get a more circular shape, which isn't 100% necessary. They can be any shape you want them to be. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not trying to be perfect here, but it does make it easier to fill them and pick them up when they are more circular in shape. But you can make them rectangular. You can do whatever you want. Have fun with it. Do this with your kids, and make all different types of shapes. Once done, you can set this onto a plate. Each one that I had did have some flour on it just because I had floured the cutting board, so that did help them not to stick to each other. But if you're worried about that, you can separate them out, if you prefer, before you go ahead and cook them up. You could do this at the same time as cooking them, so you can do like one in the frying pan and then you could be rolling out the next one and stuff. But if you are maybe feeling overwhelmed or something, like you could just do one thing at a time and just roll out each flatbread and then cook them all up at the same time like I did here. It was just easier for filming purposes, but a lot of times I will just heat the cast iron pan, roll one out, put it in the pan, and then while that one's cooking, I roll out the next one. But you do have to be fairly quick, and these do cook very quickly, maybe like a minute or two on each side, so you kind of have to be like going back and forth. And if that's too stressful for you, then just do one thing at a time and it will go a lot easier for you. Okay, so now it's time to cook them up. You're gonna heat up a cast iron pan with avocado oil, and once they are nice and hot, you're gonna add each flatbread into the pan. Now stay close by, because like I said, these things do cook very quickly, about a minute or two on each side. You'll know that they are done once they look golden brown, just like this. They look so good, and they also freeze really well. So if you plan on meal prepping them in advance, you totally could do this over the weekend and then freeze them so you can eat them later on in the week when you're looking for a very quick dinner meal. You could use these things not just to make like a chicken gyro or beef gyro or pork gyro or like whatever meat you want, but you could also use this to make like little individual pizzas. You could just put some tomato sauce on there, some cheese, put them in the oven, and that would be another really quick dinner meal as well. You could also do this for lunch too. So lots of different options here. You could even make like a breakfast gyro. You could put like eggs and ham, sausage, stuff like that. So lots of different options here. And then if you are going to freeze them though, make sure to place like a small piece of parchment paper in between each one, and then put them like all into a Ziploc bag or some sort of freezer safe bag. And that way it's a lot easier to remove them just like one at a time later on, whenever you want to use them later on in the week. Once those are all done, then you can prepare your tzatziki sauce, the chicken, and prepare your toppings. And you can actually prep all of these ingredients in advance as well, just like the flatbread, and then it just makes it super easy to reheat and assemble your gyro during the week for dinner or for lunch. So for the tzatziki sauce, you are going to dice up some baby cucumbers into pretty small bite-sized pieces, and then you're going to add them into a large mixing bowl. Then you're going to chop up some fresh herbs. The herbs are key here, so do not skip them, as the herbs give this sauce that classic flavor that you expect in a tzatziki sauce. So we are using fresh dill and fresh mint leaves. I rinse them under some cold water and then finally chop them up and put them straight into the bowl. The next thing is we're going to zest and juice an entire lemon. Now the easiest way to zest a lemon, in my opinion, is by using a microplane. You can 100% use a box grater, so if that's the only thing you have, then just go ahead and use that. That's totally fine, and it will definitely work. But I do find that the microplane is easier to use, and you can kind of, place it directly over the bowl, and it just, I don't know, it just seems easier to me. And when you first get it, it is very sharp, so just be careful. But I do think that it's worth it. And then you're going to add all of that wonderful lemon juice straight into the bowl. This is what gives this sauce a very fresh and vibrant flavor. Then you're going to add in minced garlic and plain Greek yogurt. I am using my favorite yogurt, which is from Siggy's, and it's the plain yogurt. I buy the big container that they sell, and it just is a lot more cost efficient. And it's not technically Greek yogurt, but it is very thick. I think it's Icelandic yogurt, and that's okay. It doesn't really matter if it's Greek or Icelandic yogurt. Like, I just want it to be thick for this sauce. And I do like to buy the plain one, because then this way I could bake with it, cook with it, or sweeten it, like whatever I want to do, eat it as yogurt, or again, use it in baking or like in a sauce like this. Then you're going to stir it all together. And then the last thing is you're going to add in some salt and a drizzle of avocado oil. And then again, stir it all together until the ingredients are all well combined. Next, I like to prep the toppings, which include red cabbage and romaine lettuce. I kept it super simple because the sauce here just adds so much flavor, and it's kind of like the main star of the show here, so I didn't want to like overpower it, but I do like to have that like crunch on top. So the red cabbage makes it look really pretty, and the romaine lettuce just gives it that wonderful crunch. The cabbage gives it that as well. I didn't get the lettuce on camera. I don't know what happened there, but I did shred both of them. And then I actually prepped too much of each. I shredded too much of each, so that's okay. I just placed them in a food storage container and then use them for a salad the next day. So it's kind of like working in advance, which was nice, and it was a nice little time saver the following day for my lunch. And then the last thing we need to cook up is the chicken. After this, we are going to assemble the gyros and eat them. So if you have leftover roasted chicken, then that would work perfectly here. You wouldn't even have to cook it. It's just a great way to repurpose your leftovers. But just in case you don't have that, then you can slice up some chicken breasts, and that's what I'm showing you right here. So you can season them with salt and pepper and onion and garlic powder, and then use your hands to massage all of the seasonings onto the chicken until they're all well blended. Then saute them up in a cast iron pan. I have been a lot more intentional in the last year to really start transitioning my kitchen stuff over to more non-toxic stuff. So I'm very much still in the transition of it. I don't know, whenever I do a transition with like non-toxic living and natural living, it's always been in a very like slow ditch and switch process. I kind of do one thing at a time. To do everything all at once always kind of feels a little like overwhelming to me. And so for me, I just like to do one thing at a time, get really comfortable with using that one thing, and then when I feel ready, I'll switch out something else. So one of the things that I've really made an effort to start doing in the last year has been to start using cast iron pans as much as possible, or even like a non-toxic like ceramic non-stick pan, because I'm really trying my best to like start switching over from Teflon to these, because I really do not want to be exposing myself to like PFAS and the forever chemicals. And I think that slow transition is totally okay. You don't have to like ditch and switch everything in your life like all at once. That's so overwhelming, and it's not realistic as well. So I think that, if you are feeling overwhelmed by like natural living and wanting to like switch over to like more non-toxic like habits or cookware or products in your home, or perfume or anything like that, like it can feel overwhelming. There's just so many like chemicals that are inundated in our society and in our products in our home and like just everything. And so it can just definitely feel overwhelming to like have to change out like all the different things all at once. So to do a slow transition wherever you feel like the most like called to do in that moment, I think is totally okay. Okay, so now that everything is cooked and prepped, we can assemble the gyros. So you're going to take one of the flatbreads and spoon on a generous helping of the tzatziki sauce all down the center. Then you're going to add on some of the shredded lettuce, the red cabbage, a few pieces of chicken, and then you're also going to crumble up some feta cheese. And boom, you are all done. You are ready to eat. This is so delicious, and it makes a great dinner or meal idea for the whole family. It's also really fun to eat. It's kind of messy too, but hey, that's half the fun of it, right? So if you want to meal prep this in advance, then you can just store all the ingredients separately and assemble it right before you want to eat it. And there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching. The full recipe is listed in the description box. Please give this video a like and subscribe if you want to improve your everyday wellness with good food and natural living. And until next time, stay well, my friends. Bye.